Hey guys, so this video's for the assignment 5 for CIS 5 building with the structure. So for today's assignment, it wants us to basically create a few functions which fill out a menu, which that in a scenario like this, we are a professor that's in charge of a class that wants to organize / manage the class to make the life easier. Which the functions would be highest grade, lowest grade, average grade, student ID, and print student name. Create 5 students from the student struct, and to go through the menu to see the select all options to see if appropriate responses are displayed. And yeah, so basically this is my code. I included iOS stream and IOMP. Basically this is for decimal placement, this is for input output, and yeah, using namespace std to just make it a little bit more easier, and then hashtag define max student, which would be 5. This is basically just going to come in later down the line, so we don't have to create this whole array, and we could actually have what it's called to have like as a dictionary which contains multiple data types within like this one thing. So like let's say for example students being this, right? That would equal this entire dictionary and so on and so forth. So yeah. And also the 5, which would basically be the index for this whole thing. Now the structure just basically contains the whole thing, so we don't declare variables at random. And a proper example, like how it defined as a structure, would basically be like as a dog, right? It'd be like what parts, what skin, what eyes, or whatever the dog must have that would declare as that type of a structure. Now, the void print menu, this whole thing is just basically just not returning a value, so this would be part of a specific menu once we access it. And then this would be the main part of the menu. So now, once we call back from the structure being students, which then if we go back over here, which was defined as max students 5, right? Basically, it would just be this whole thing over here. Int count equals 0 and choice, count 5. And then now this whole thing would just be this whole do while loop for the whole menu until the user wants to leave out. So say for example, from this print menu, when it says character out, enter your choice, character in, this is a switch case. So what it does is that basically how I describe it is that the switch, if like let's say if I want to pick one, right, it would basically just say it wouldn't refer back to choice, like if choice equals this, right? It's technically an if statement itself, but it'd just be like if there's a specific integer that equaled it, right? Like if choice equals case 1, then then it would refer back to this void function, meaning the highest grade should be back over here, being directed by, and then the whole thing over here, which would be directed by this pointer, and then taking out all the information to that function, which then it would be redirected. Case 2, so on and so forth, and by case 6, there would just basically be a goodbye, and default would basically just be if I put something greater or lower than the case value, then it would just be basically an invalid choice, and then it would be a while loop. If choice doesn't equal 6, then it refers back to enter choice, so on and so forth, and it would return a value of 0. And the void, this would just be a print menus thing whatsoever. So yeah, so every time it would just basically just be something like this, and it would just cancel out until we go back into this main thing whatsoever. The back to the int main, being all the way over here being the print menu. Then, let's say for example, I put 1, right? Highest grade. So highest grade, go over here, then all this information gets, and then basically this part gets redirected to the pointer, and then it goes all the way over here to highest grade students, the pointer, and then int count. And then remember when int count was 5, now it would equal that, right? And then int highest would be that. And then for this whole thing, it would be for int I equals 1, I count is like, if I was less than count, then it would increment by 1. Now, so basically how we're going to access the class, it would be basically by the dot. So it'd be if students, students grades, that's how we're going to access the class, is greater than students highest, dot students grades, then the highest would equal I. So from this whole thing back added to the class, or the struct, sorry, I'm going to use the Python. It would basically be this whole grade chart being over here, and then at the end it would say that Charlie has the highest grade, right? And yeah, and then after that it's going to basically print out student's name, and then which would basically be Charlie, right? And then student's grade would be the 97, right? And then it would redirect this back all the way over here to this print menu, which would print up back again, and then basically want to see enter's choice. And then same thing over here for these few void functions, and I'm actually going to run through the code. Same thing over here, pointer, students, and then for I and range, to basically see the whole thing. And then students grade, students lowest grade, same thing, just vice versa. Average grade, this is why I also put the set precision over here, so for decimals. So float total equals 0 for for int equals 0, I count plus, and then it's gonna basically have the average grade, and it should divide, yeah, by count, which was by the amount of students that was there. Student ID, and it's just gonna go through the whole thing to just basically print out the whole student IDs. And then also over here, it would also print out the student's name. Now, and then finally for test code, so remember how I said that the highest grade would be Charlie, right? Charlie with the 97.8. And then now if I want to put something lower, invalid choice, and it redirects me to the thing. Now if I want to put 7, same thing, invalid choice. However, I want to go over here real quick where it says invalid choice. I'm just gonna go out. Boom. Whoa. Hold up, I think it glitched out on me. Sorry. Just give me a second. Now let's say if I want to put 7, right? I guess that didn't work. Well, never mind. Sorry. Anyways, so Again, lowest grade, Diana with the 78.6, and then redirecting all of this from the class. Well, never mind. Not from the class, but from the dictionary. From the dictionary, which then being from over here, students' names. And then print students' names. And yeah, that is the code for the menu. Thanks so much for watching this video.